Hello everyone, welcome to our second press conference dedicated to the International Rotterdam Film Festival 2023 Tiger competition. My name is David Jenkins, I'm the editor of Little White Lies magazine, a British film publication. There it is for everyone to see. Today we're going to be talking to 4 filmmakers and hopefully going to be giving them about 10-15 minutes each to talk about their films that they're bringing to the competition. I'm going to start by asking a couple of questions and hopefully the audience here will have some to add as well. Let me give you a quick overview of the Tiger competition for those who don't know it. Competition was founded in 1995 with the aim of discovering, raising the profile of and rewarding up-and-coming international film talent. The Tiger Award is accompanied by a cash prize to be shared between the director and producer of the winning film. Equally important is the international recognition that comes to nominees and their works that the Tiger competition brings with it. The Tiger Awards are an indispensable backdrop for many filmmakers. It can be the final step to convince financiers to allow a next project. So first, let's introduce the jury. So yes, an amazing international jury, and that includes the filmmaker Lav Diaz, producer-director of the Undine Far East Film Festival, Sabrina Barracetti, film critic Alonso Diaz de la Vega, actress and filmmaker Anasia Uziman, and the celebrated producer Christine Vachon. Together they would choose the winners of the Tiger Award, worth €40,000, and the Special Jury Award, which is worth €10,000. Today we're going to be talking to 4 filmmakers, as I said. First it's going to be Gustav Geerbollesen, director of Mannvirki. Next, Guido van der Werve, director of nummer 18. Filip Sotnichenko, director of La Palisiada. And Teng Yuhan, director of Gagaland. If you're following us online and you have a question for these filmmakers, please feel free to add that into the chat box underneath the video, and we will try and respond. And without further ado, let's get to our first filmmaker, and that is Gustav Geerbollesen, director of Mannvirki. An abandoned building on Iceland's northern coast has fallen subject to the natural forces of erosion and entropy. As the ruins and the landscape slowly yield to the wind and sea, a loose assemblage of flora, fauna, humans and revenants share the task of giving the structure new purpose. At the border of fiction and documentary, Mannvirki contemplates this multi-layered world of uncertainty and hope. Gustav, welcome to Rotterdam. Congratulations on your film. I'd like to start by asking you about I guess the evolution of this project. I understand that you've worked in many different artistic disciplines prior to making this film. I'd love to hear how this film is an evolution of that previous work.
It is a little bit like an extension of my studio. Like I work also as a visual artist, lots with drawings and sculpture, things like that. So this is a little bit like. It's as if I would take in my studio out into some sites and places and landscapes, and work further on it, in a cinematographic way.
And what was when did the specific idea of this film come about? Like, are you kind of constantly thinking about these similar notions of of landscape and sort
Yes, it grows. You know, we had this observation first for quite a while. This place I know. I worked with different methods, with similar methods before, with sites I knew quite well, and it could go there and observe and prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty much like that. It's a landscape story in a way.
And what can I ask? In the light of all this, of your previous work, could you sort of talk a little bit about what, if anything, you were doing on this film that was new to you, which was a new experience, and maybe an exciting new way of expanding your artistic project?
Well, it's a very lonesome project to be an artist, especially for me. I live in a remote place, and I think it's to bring other people into it. And there's both the work talks about collectivity. It's a story of landscape structure in it, and beings, and the beings are also humans who gather things and all things, and what they make is not like a big story. It's many little events that they create together, because it's a little bit the way of gathering things. You have the focus on here and now, and you put things together, and that is a little bit the storytelling. And this is similarly what happens also when I work on this. I work first very much alone, like an artist, creating things, drawing up storyboards, camera movements, and filming. Then I bring first in some people to do the actions, and in the post-production I work with really great people, on the editing and sound and music. And that is a collective work, because they come into it as an artist, and I think that is very new for me and different from, the practices I have in my studio all alone, making drawings or paintings and sculptures and things like that. And so it's more the collective aspect of working with other people. That is quite new.
That's really interesting to hear that you kind of storyboarded this film, especially as it has this documentary element to it as well. I mean, was there a time where you were going out with the camera and finding material, or did you always have a vision that you were trying to fulfill?
There's a bit both. There's a vision that sort of it's just sort of works in my head for a while. So I have the visions and ideas that are based on observations.
Yeah.
But when I'm film, I go also and I film sporadically a lot of things, and just also because it's very much about the landscape and the architecture, I do film that, and then I film the actions that are more like some gestures, and so that is that there I have to make drawings, because it's about the movements and the frames, and also to show the actors what I'm thinking about. It's sometimes better than words, to explain to them the action or what there's to do.
I mean, the use of I guess actors or protagonists in the film is really interesting, and I wondered because they're mostly silent, and it's very much about, it's almost sort of dance-like their contributions to the story. And I wondered, could you tell me about like how you were selecting the cast members, and were you casting people in a kind of traditional movie way? Did you have a vision of the kind of bodies you wanted represented?
I had a little bit just to look around,
Yeah.
So that's how it works a little bit. They're usually not far away. It's usually people who live near. That's important somehow. That they also know the places, and. But then I have to look around and find them.
And how did you explain what you wanted from them?
I have to talk about the ideas, I have to talk about these events and these things they are creating, the incidents, and also the part of the non-humans and the plants and the things that you see, because it's all based on that. It's like multi-layered abstract stories of things and natural phenomena, and they intervene into that.
And what about? I'd love to hear a bit about if you could talk a bit about your relationship to the landscape. And you said it's sort of an area you live near. And what I guess like what was the inspiration to actually take this landscape as the subject matter?
I'm interested in damaged landscape and landscape that has been changed by human beings and also animals and that have been brought into it. Often it's also some story about ruins. That's very interesting because they also have stories. They have story of some exploitation or some military things or something like that. But they're usually hidden in these films I make. I make this more story that is about what happens after and the development that in there. But it gives it the strange aspect that you know there is something behind and there are stories there that are memories and the functions you don't have them anymore or you can't really not always understand what it is. But it's important.
In terms of filming on these locations, were you having to get permissions? Were there companies who maybe owned these ruins that you had to sort of?
I always do that. Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I was working on a film a few years ago, and that was in an old military station, and also an old house that I had to sort of a tour force that did reconstruct, and also this I always ask it. Usually it's no problem because they are not in use or there's nothing there. But it's always better to do it. It can be complicated afterwards if you don't.
And with this one, were the owners of the land okay with you interacting with all this detritus and the sort of shells of these places that once were? I mean, were there any safety aspects as well? I mean, it's
well, that is a good question. We did not talk about that, but but that is usually a little bit hazardous, actually. Yeah. But they no, we always get the permission. To
do it. Do we have any questions from the audience? There's a question here.
Hi. Do you have any concrete plans for a future project that the prize money from the Tiger competition would go towards?
Pardon?
Do you have any plans for a future project, maybe an evolution of your project, this project that the Tiger prize money might go towards?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
I can. There's so much in my head, but I just started more like scouting and going into the places and things like that. So it's a bit. I'm not really prepared to talk about it. So sorry.
Filmmakers want to keep that stuff secret.
And I have a project now I started on. It's very much about water, and it's on a boat, a lot of it, and out at sea. So. Yeah.
One thing I found interesting as well about the film is that it does have this, when you're dealing with kind of wreckages, and that there is a kind of timeless aspect to it. Like if you were to find this film as an artifact, you maybe wouldn't know when it was made or when it's the set and taking place.
Yeah.
Like it could be the future, it could be the past, it could be the present, and there's almost a kind of science fiction aspect to it in that sense. And I wondered if genre, like in a kind of traditional classical sense, is interesting to you.
Yeah, it could be even Neolithic. The things they make with the tools, and so I thought of it as what they were like. Was like a coexisting world, but that they were out of synchronization with the world we are living in. With this artificial timing and frequency that we have this mechanical time we live in. So I thought it was interesting to put them in some sort of auto-synchronization into some timescape where you have all the notion, the telluric notion of the geological notion of time and things like that. And maybe that works a little bit. But at the same time, you see these people like here and now, and what they do is always, they're always looking at something here. Their actions, they are here and now. They always have their look around them on some little discoveries. So that's
Gustav, thank you so much for your time.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Gustav Georg. Okay, next up, Nummer 18 by Guido van der Werf. Artist and filmmaker Guido van der Werf processes the traumatic fallout of a near-death cycling accident through memory, music, and an examination of modern therapeutic methods. Guido, welcome. So my first question to you is, I'd love to hear about, I guess, your decision to make this project, following an accident in 2016, and the film being a kind of reflection on that. I guess, was there ever a point where you thought you might not be able to make art again, or maybe you not even want to make art again?
Yeah, I mean, I was in an induced coma for almost a month, and when I came out, I had a traumatic brain injury, and I was left paralyzed. I was talking aphasic nonsense. I was 53 kilos. And things did not go as I was used to. I had no balance. So it was a total rebirth. I was just thinking, like, what to do with this? Like, I like to move on with things, but all of a sudden you're like, almost like resetted like a computer. And then, I'm not a computer, so I'm kind of looking around what to do now.
I guess, I mean, when does that impulse to create return? And like, what point do you did you get to think, yes, I need to process this, I need to like talk about it?
Well, I'm a creative person, so at the beginning I was already sketching at a little sketchbook, and I was having ideas, and also this institute where I did my rehab in the beginning. It was such a weird place, and I considered myself in such a weird state. So I just immediately had this idea, we somehow need to film this. So we just started documenting from the beginning. And then the whole movie just kind of developed later, but I just thought this is a kind of, like I swear by, for me, authenticity is holy. So I thought this is what it is now. It's weird enough to share that with people.
Yeah.
Or poetic but beautiful, but it's just, yeah.
I mean, it is a strangely, it's probably like the funniest film I've seen about a traumatic brain injury and rehabilitation. I mean, I say that as a compliment, but I mean, I guess the question then is, how do you, like, it might have been very easy for you to make quite a maudlin film about the sort of existential questions that you may have been suffering, but this is still very funny, and it's looking at the almost absurdity of the situation, but there's something quite affirmative and joyful about it as well.
Well, when I was in art school and I started to make my films, then I realized that I'm a man of extremes. I have one pitch black dark side, very dramatic, and on the other side is a very silly sense of humor. And I realized that if I combine both in a work, I get a pretty unique word. So I don't live irony. And also, I grew up, you're English. I grew up with English humor, like Monty Python and stuff like that. So that's always echoing in my brain. And also, there's one scene that you showed. I use a gun first as a suicide option, and then I started using it like as a triangle. So I have this ideas. Just a kind of, well, I guess it's just irony.
I mean, in that sense, music plays a big part in the film as well. Like, as in your kind of, not only your kind of recreation of these kind of operas and recalibration of these operas to sort of speak about the situation, but also there's this, you have this thing in the film where you have the sound of the violin in your head that's constantly there. I would love you to talk a bit about the importance of music and.
Well, music was my first love. I actually wanted to be a pianist, and I loved um, romantic classical music, and I played myself to that when I was a teenager. I thought maybe I go to the conservatory, because my father, the film is also known to my father, but he was a drawing teacher. He went to the same art school in Amsterdam, and he was a drawing teacher in a high school in Rotterdam, actually. But he was, of course, obsessed with visual art, so we went a lot to musea, and I looked at paintings, and then I would sit at home, listen to music, and I thought, like, music, it's like, it's so direct. And then
Was it your father who was pushing you towards music as well, or did he
no,
not have
not
interest
at all,
in-
no. No, he just, he just sat back and just do your thing. But I always, later when I went to visual art school, I always had this idea, like, why is music so direct and visual art not? So I thought, because at that time when I was in art school, I was working in the cinema in Amsterdam as a job. And in the cinema, I saw people, laughing and crying. And I thought, well, that's like almost like a concert in a way, or because it's so direct. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna make films or videos, because they're hopefully they can be as direct as music is. Of course, the good thing about film is that you can add music to it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd love to talk about something you said before about Monty Python, because the film is very like Python-esque, I guess, especially these sequences where you have the operas. Could you talk a bit about like how you went about writing those, and I guess the rewriting the lyrics as well to certain famous operas?
Well, it's
The audacity.
Yeah. Well, when I started to make films, then I realized I can kind of compose my own music. And for me, then I thought, now making film, I'm writing my own music, then that's my Gesamtkunstwerk, I love the way music develops. Like you're not thinking like verbally. Usually when you're script writing, I think most people think verbally, but I love to do that at the same time, because it's a different way of thinking. And sometimes I'm also not... like I can't verbalize what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing, and that's the power of music, I think.
Is there any questions from the audience?
Hi. What informed your decision to use English in parts with the girl's narrative voice? What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, the girl is my alter ego, and of course, we all have this verbal thoughts in our own head, but she's a kind of all-knowing translator in the film, and I love this ephemic things. I'm gonna kind of visualize my alter ego, and she's also the all-knowing translator of the film. So I'm also a puzzler. So then, in the end, I thought, now we got the puzzle complete. So.
Can I ask, was there any impulse behind making this film where you saw it as, I guess, a film that other people could watch and maybe learn from to sort of deal with this situation? Because it seems to me like the way you present rehabilitation and therapy and all these things that you go through, that you present them in a sort of absurd way sometimes, but there is an awe about it as well, like that there are ways that we can fix the human body.
Yeah. I mean, that's because I'm before this I made video art, and then you're not really so busy with how people in a gallery or museum kind of perceive your work. You just like a little bit have this kind of visual artist whatever attitude. But now this time it was also great to work with different people, so the producer to talk about, what is this, because I was more aware that I'm actually taking people's time, because people are kind of, bound, kind of tight in the cinema, and I have to see the whole thing, and maybe that's, I didn't want, I was more familiar, I thought I'm wasting people's time, so let's make it something.
Value, yeah. And your film, your works are numbered, and this is like number 18. Is there any plans for number 19?
Yeah.
And will it be a film or will it be something else?
Well, this is a new thing for me to try to make fiction, and I also want to experience, how it works. That actually people go buy a ticket and go to the cinema and see my work. So it's I love this, that it's more open. That visual art is always this kind of highbrow kind of thing. So I thought, yeah. So let's see how it goes. But
well, can't wait. Well, thank you very much, Guido.
You're welcome.
So next up, we have La Palisiada by Filip Sotnichenko. So let me give you a little synopsis of the film. Ukraine, 1996, 5 months before the moratorium on the death penalty. Two old friends, a police detective and a forensic psychiatrist, are investigating the murder of a colleague whose widow both of them loved when they were young. Immersed in memories of the past, they unconsciously create a future in which their children will have to live, reaping the fruits of their parents' lost hopes. Philip, welcome to Rotterdam.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your film. I would love to ask initially the question of the title of the film, and I understand that there are certain nuances and suggestions to the title, and I wondered if you could explain how you landed on it.
Стосовно назви, да, питання?
Так, тобто що назва означає?
Взагалі-то це філологічний термін певний був на початку «Ля Палісіада», певні ствердження, які дублюють, що таке «Ля Палісіада», до речі? Не знаєте?
Ні, я не знаю.
Я теж вже забув, тому я і зробив з цього неологізм певний. Мені сподобалося, як звучить слово. Взагалі я вважаю, що кіно воно ближче до музики, поезії, щось таке. І мені подобалося, як звучить саме слово, і я розщепив його якби на артикль «ля», наче це щось таке французьке.
So originally this was a philological term, and then nobody really knew what it meant, but the sound was really, really nice, and it was really beautiful, and the director really liked how it sounded, and then he also added la, which made it sound like something French and something melodical, so it's also some kind of beautiful that no one knows what it means.
Ah, right. But are there any other nuances to why you picked that specific term?
Тобто, чому ви вибрали специфічно цей термін?
Як сказати чому? Тому що взагалі-то фільм складається, якщо його дивитися, з 2 частин. І взагалі якось так життя влаштовано, що йде все по колу. І термін теж він відповідає цій думці стосовно того, що повторюють, як ви прочитали в синопсисі, діти, нащадки долі своїх батьків. Тому і саме слово «Ля Палісіада» на початку – це щось на зразок ствердження, яке дублює в своєму складі речення, думку двічі.
So this term actually refers a bit to the movie has 2 halves, And the same goes also to as for life, and also life is circular, and also in the movie there is a story of the parents and of the children that they repeat the same. So that's how the name also came, that it has some references to this.
Could you talk a bit about your research process in the film? I'd love to hear about how you discovered this moment in history and thought maybe there was potential for a film there, and then what was the process after that of actually finding out? Because I understand you did lots of VHS archive research into the actual cases.
Тобто, якщо б ви могли поділитися більше про розшук насправді цієї справи, те, що відбулося, як ви його шукали, як ви його знайшли, і потім як це вплинуло на фільм, тобто, ну, і як ви потім працювали з цими подіями, які ви знайшли?
Ну, це взагалі, найцікавіше для мене, саме такий ресерч, так би мовити. Виходить, що я просто дуже часто відштовхуюсь від інформації якоїсь, коли працюю над фільмами. Може, я буду так поступово, а ви будете працювати?
So this was the most interesting part actually, because he really loved the research. And he always works from point where he finds something interesting and then build on it.
Виходить, я 89-го року народження, і я дізнався, просто читаючи Вікіпедію, якось так, сторінку за сторінкою, дійшов до того, що несподівано для мене знайшов інформацію, що в 96-му році, коли мені було 7 років, ще існувала смертна кара вже в незалежній Україні.
So I was born in 1989, and then by just searching through web, through Wikipedia, I found the interesting fact that even though when I was 7 years old, there was still that you could be executed in a prison in Ukraine. That was kind of really strange fact.
І якось почав розкручувати цю тему, думати, якусь шукати нову інформацію, і знайшов певні VHS-записи, бо якраз в середині 90-х років вже багато хто, не багато хто, але хтось вже мав можливість знімати побут свій. І так само ми знайшли, мій продюсер Сашко Чубко, він знайшов в музеї МВС, музеї міліції, касети, це такі навчальні певні записи для, я так розумію, для студентів зі схожими на кадр, який ми щойно бачили, фрагмент фільму, певні записи того, як працювали тоді міліціянти, і виходить, що я якось ці знахідки об'єднав. Побутову частину 90-х, як люди жили тоді, і професійні якісь записи.
So in 1996 in Ukraine, people already had use how to make the common, how they're filming common life. So they already could film everyday life between each other. So that was one part that director found, and then another part was found in a museum of police in Ukraine, where there was a lot of also VHS about the trainings. About,
це виходить оперативні зйомки, коли фіксують певні затримання, фіксували.
So there's a filming when they were actually filming how they are arresting people, what's happening after, and then in the film you can see the combination of those both. One from everyday life of people made by themselves, and another one is from the police. The police filming that was made for work purposes.
It's surprising to hear, considering what we see in the film and the kind of brutality, I guess, of certain police methods back then, that they were willing to let you see these videos. Was there any issues of you trying to get hold of them, or?
Це дуже дивно бачити, тому що у фільмі показано дуже багато брутальності міліції. І чи не було у вас якихось проблем мати доступ до цих матеріалів, і чи вони якось заважали вам, чи були якісь проблеми показати і взагалі навіть подивитися ці матеріали?
Ні, музей МВС, залюбки надав нам записи того, як працювала міліція на той час. Взагалі-то зараз вже в Україні міліції як такової немає, є поліція. У нас була реформа, і тому працювали так в 90-ті брутально, і взагалі життя було таке непросте в 90-х роках в Україні.
In general, no, the museum didn't have any issues at all because militia doesn't exist anymore in Ukraine. There was a reform, and now we have police. And in general, the life, how it was in the 90s, changed a lot. And yes, it was very brutal, but now it's different. So the museum didn't have any issues of giving access to their films.
Interesting. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Were there any days after shooting or at the end of the film that you would need to go through some kind of process to make sure that you weren't weighed down by the heavy content of what you were filming?
So let me just repeat that. So when you were filming, did the heaviness of the content that you and the storyline and the themes ever play on you? Was it a sort of slightly, I guess not depressing shoot, but was the mood as filming as downbeat as the film?
Коли ви працювали над фільмом і робили зйомки, чи були у вас моменти, чи взагалі це було, тому що фільм, як бачили, такий, він тяжкий, і чи впливало це на вас, і чи ви були в такому ж самому тяжкому та трошки депресивному настрої, як і сам фільм?
Ні, до речі, зараз, я так розумію, це лайвстрім, і в залі тут, окрім журналістів, багато моїх колег, членів команди, членкиня сидить теж, дивлюсь на неї. І я працюю просто з друзями, і тому ні, депресивних настроїв в мене не було, все було... Працювали і просто, це ж ігровий фільм, хотів сказати художній, правильно ігровий, фікшн-муві, і тому ні, класно, було все класно, настрій був чудовий, просто, ми готувалися, працювали з репетиціями, було на кожен практично, на кожен кадр, на кожен епізод, а епізоди, зняти одним планом, найчастіше у фільмі, тому ми мали день репетицій, а потім знімальний день, і якось так працювалося більш-менш просто.
No, it was actually very easy, and it was great to work with great people that are actually also present in the studio, and their friends, family, and because of their support, it was always very good to work. There was a lot of repetition made. So basically, during the day, there was a repetition, and then in the end of the day, there would be filming. So there was a lot of preparation done, and everything went great, and the mood was good, and cooperation was great.
Can I ask you finally about the sort of VHS aesthetic of the film? Because I understand, was that shot on like vintage cameras or something that was created in post-production? Because I understand it's difficult to get that footage into like digital form.
Про естетику VHS, тобто як ви це знімали, тому що VHS дуже важко перекласти у дигітальну форму.
Стосовно зображення, виходить, що ми вже згадали, що це учбові записи були, вони були саме на VHS відзняті тоді. А ми використовували вже інший формат, міні-DV. Тому що оператор у мене такий, він має характер, і я йому пропонував знімати на VHS, більш брудне зображення зробити таке, а він все-таки обрав камеру більш нового покоління. Взагалі це не перший мій повнометражний фільм, але не перший фільм, який я знімаю на таку, так би мовити, вінтажну камеру. Я колись працював вже з VHS, зараз працював з міні-DV. Я думаю, що наступна камера вже буде, можливо, якась Handycam, Sony, не знаю.
So the parts are that shows the militia trainings. They are on VHS, but the filming was done on the DV camera, and that was a choice of the operator of the camera, and.
Та я просто жартував, кажу, що наступна камера буде, ну...
So the new film will be made on a more sophisticated and more modern camera.
Philip, thank you so much for your time. That's been great.
Thank you.
Cheers. And next up we have Gagaland by Teng Yuhan. Gagaland is about Gaga dance, a disco-like freestyle dance popular on the streets of China, and with a devoted and massive online following. The film follows a troupe called the Pink Hair Dancing Group, run by the elder statesman of Gaga dance, Pink Hair. It follows their preparations for the Gaga Dance Championship and the romantic bond that develops between two of its main dancers, Boy K and B Girl. Teng, welcome to the Rotterdam Film Festival. Congratulations on the film. I want to start by asking you a little bit about your kind of evolution as an artist and filmmaker, and maybe the journey of getting to the point of making this feature. Could you talk us a bit about how you kind of became a filmmaker?
就是从你是怎么样，就是这对于影像和电影的爱好是怎么产生和发展，然后一直到你做这个电影的整个的这个过程发展过程是怎么样的？
谢谢。我想分享一部我很喜欢的电影来做一个举例来回答这个问题，是赫尔佐格菲茨杰拉德，赫尔佐格的《路上行舟》。
She would start with a very the director she likes very much, Herzog and Fritz Kahlo, that movie, yeah.
然后这是一部非常疯狂的电影，我简直爱死它了，因为它讲了一个非常疯狂的人，他为了在雨林里建一座歌剧院，要把一座大船拉上山头的故事。
So when she first watched this movie from very young, and it was a very crazy movie about a guy wants to build a theater in a rainforest and drag a giant steamboat over the hill.
以这部电影举例呢，我想说，电影不仅能满足我对世界的好奇，并且这种疯狂的故事同样会带给我一种，我被理解、被祝福的一种感受。
So the film for her, watching the film for her, it's like a faraway, remote blessing for her, and the film can satisfy her curiosity for the world.
而且我觉得电影它一直陪伴着我，因为我年龄很小，然后我对世界还有生活很多经验都是未知的，之后电影也教会了我很多道理，电影它在我的生活中是很重要的一个组成部分。
The film is just like a kind of accompanying for her to growing up, because she is very young, and so there's so many uncertain, unknown things in the world that she doesn't understand it. But for film, it opens the door of the world for her and accompanying her growing up and taught her many things.
所以说，我觉得电影它是一种在表达爱、传递爱的部分，所以我做了 Gagaland， 我觉得这是一种我把这些爱分享出去的一个方式。
So she can feel the love from watching movies. So she wants to make a film to share her love for the audiences. So that's why she wants to make a film about love and to share with other people.
然后当我开始拍摄电影之后，关于 Gagaland， 我在想就是，电影和电影同等重要的或许就是我们的生活，所以 Gagaland， 我在制作这部电影的过程中，我从生活和这个中国的一种比较草根文化的短视频平台快手，还有就是一些网上的视频以及一些亚文化的符号，学习到了非常非常多制作电影的一个方式。
Like for a movie, the film is very important for us, but also the life is very important. So when she made this film Gagaland, she learned a lot of street wits and also many raw creativity from the Chinese online platforms like Kuaishou, and you can see many raw wisdom from that, and she learned it from it.
Can I ask, actually, it's interesting you mentioned Fitzcarraldo, because I guess stylistically those films feel, Gagaland and that film feel very different, although in the character of Pink Hair, he almost feels like a Fitzcarraldo character in his attempts to kind of bring this artistry to a bigger audience.
他的意思是说，因为你提到了那个赫尔佐格的那个电影，他觉得，我们这个 Gagaland 和那个陆上行舟其实风格差异非常大，但是呢，那个红毛的存在又有一点像这个陆上行舟里边的一个这种疯狂的角色，好像要把尬舞这个东西把它弄到一个更大的一个平台上，
我觉得这种疯狂是非常本能的一种欲望。对
，craziness it's a very inner instinct. So,
Can I ask then? Yeah, you talked a little bit about you immersing yourself in this online world, and this film is very, I guess, contemporary in how it's visualized and the aesthetic, and you deal a lot with social media and the aesthetic of social media. How did you was it easy to do that, because that world is so constantly changing? Was it easier to kind of capture that moment?
他说的是，就是这个 Gagaland 里面用了很多，就是网络的这些视听语言，但是网络的视听语言又是在迅速的变化当中。那么你在做这个电影的时候，用这种东西的时候，这个东西困不困难？尤其是因为它是一个很当下的在变化的一个东西。
我觉得是这样的，就是因为我年龄很小，就是我是1998年末，就差不多2000年，就是 Z 时代长大的，这种语言在我生活中我觉得是非常正常，不会让我困惑，就是我们这代小孩就是我们看到的世界其实就是这样子，所以它对我来说更像是一种就是本能的使用，就我其实也没有想过那么多。
She didn't. Okay. She didn't think so much like that because she was born 1998. 1998年。
年末就是
at the end of 1998, so it's like a Generation Z. So those kind of online language for her, she didn't think so much like that because the world that she saw is like that. So she just used it.
I see. I'd love to know as well, like because I mean the film is so. Could you talk us a bit about the editing process and how you actually created the images in the film, because you do have a lot of animation and the aspect ratio is constantly changing, and there is text, and I mean, was it a difficult process to actually get all that information on the screen?
就是我们在就是最后这个电影在做的那个后期的这种剪辑当中，你做的那种包装，就是比如说有分屏，有各种不同的尺寸的屏幕，不同的材料放在这个里头，不同的那种东西做起来，就是那个做的那个过程是怎么样的？然后它困不困难对你来说？
就是我们做的是那些五毛特效，然后我觉得可能是思考和找到合适的能跟我们一起完成这件事的团队是一个它还是会有一个过程在的，但是我很幸运，我的后期团队还有我的前期工作伙伴们都是非常有才华，他们都懂得我想要什么，所以我们共同完成了这项工作，我们还是比较一拍即合的去做这个事情的。
It took us a while to find the partners to make all these things, but fortunately the people we found, and they all understand it. They all understand. First, the standard we use to choose people who work with us is we understand. They understand the language we want to use, the visual language we want to use. So mostly we want to show the audiences is so-called 50-cent special effect. So there's a word in China, we call it 五毛特效. It's 50 cents is special effect. So that is.
I'm going to open it up to the audience if there's any questions. Oh, we've got one here from a different person.
Are there any autobiographical
Are there any
Maybe elaborate on that.
are there any autobiographical moments on the film? And if you could you elaborate on whether any of the characters share a similar journey to one that you have experienced?
Sorry, I didn't catch the.
So are there any characters in the film who maybe represent the filmmaker? Her journey.
就是在那个咱们的电影里面，有没有哪一个角色是代表了你的存在？
还真没有，但是我演了一个角色，但是我觉得这个电影它整个的
他说那个故事里面的角色里面有没有就是代表你的这个存在？
没有，但是我只是一个参与尬舞的人，我爱尬舞，所以我做了这个。
There is no specific character represent her in that film, but she played one of the role over there. But we don't want to spoil the thing. But she consider herself just a participant in this Gaga dance world, so she just be there.
I'd love to know as well, because one of the things that the film does is it feels so authentic, the world that you create, and I'd love to know if you could talk a bit about, or if you want to talk about the that line between documentary and fiction, and how much of Gaga dance actually was something that is real or invented by yourself. Like where is that line in between the reality and fiction in the film?
他就是说咱们的那个电影里边，看起来它非常的真实，但是这个里头有记录的部分，有这个虚构的部分。那哪些有多少是虚构，多少是是真实？就是这个他们之间的界限在哪里？就你是怎么把握，就怎么去跟他们讲一讲这个把握的这个边界，或者是这个真实和虚构在 Gagaland 的这个电影里边，它是怎么样去呈现的
？OK，我是这样的，是我们做后期的时候，我的剪辑指导，邓博超非常有才华，然后他帮我们搭建了整个记录和现实这种界限的龙骨，然后这也是跟我们非常一拍即合的，因为在我的心里呢，记录的部分它和这个电影它就是有一个原型人物，就是它就是来源于真实的生活，而同时在我的这个电影世界里，我认为电影它可以去模糊这个记录和虚构之间的界限，就特别是这个 Gagaland 里边
like when we do the post-production, the editing, we have very good post-production director and the editor, Deng Bochao, and when he editing and he put the fiction part and the documentary part, they put them mixed together, and that would be the dragon bone of our film, and. But for her understanding is in our film Gagaland, the line between the documentary and the virtual thing and the real thing, fiction thing is very a blur. Like we really don't want to make a line over there.
而且我觉得就是界限，关于对界限的强调，对我来说并不是一个很重要的事情。我在乎的只是它能否给观众带来快乐和爱的那种感受，自由的体验。
Maybe the line between the fiction or the document or the real or the true authentic thing is not very important for her to make the film, but the most important thing that she thinks a lot to make this film is about, can this film bring the feeling of love and freedom for the audiences?
Teng, thank you so much for your time. That was great. We're going to have to wrap up now, I'm afraid. But thank you so much. Teng,
thank you.
Sorry, just gonna. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much to all the filmmakers. And if you follow us online and have a question, please feel free to put it into the chat box below the video. Tomorrow's press conferences will take place at 11 a.m. Central European Time in the same venue at the heart of IFFR's hub, the Doolan. The lineup will feature tomorrow Lucas Nathrath with Letzter Abend, Giovanni Bucchieri with 100 Arister, Karim Kassen with Third, and Amir Tudarusta with Num. Thanks everyone again for joining us. Thanks to the audience for their great questions, and yeah, see you all tomorrow. And enjoy the festival.